you just joined us on the System After Dark, this is a homegrown number courtesy of E3 and Cracker. Bulla, how's it going? I'm D, your host on the System After Dark, right here on Today FM. Today's hit music. You can catch me weeknights at 7 p.m. That's from Monday to Friday, only on the home of Today's hit music. And don't forget, that's D with you every weeknight on the System After Dark.
In this bulletin, opposition members have boycotted the vote on the budget in Parliament. DISMAC concerned about people not paying attention to their alerts. An Agriculture Ministry to seek legal advice about compensation following outbreak of TB in cattle. Good evening, I'm Jackie Spate and this is FBC News. All the opposition members walked out of Parliament this afternoon. In the lead up to the walkout, opposition MP Ratanaingama Lalambalavu raised a point of order requesting that the entire 2015 budget estimates be reprinted as they had cited 16 errors. Speaker of the House Dr. Chico Luveni ruled that following her ruling last Tuesday, estimates were circulated as soon as they were available, and that in relation to the appropriation bill, estimates were now within the jurisdiction of Parliament. Luveni also ruled on concerns that opposition had with regards to the core agendum by Finance Minister, which she said did not in any way undermine Parliament's power to deal with the appropriation bill and the estimates.
Thank you. For us, we just cannot go along with something that we know is not legal, is not according to the Constitution, and is not right for us to work with and to agree to, or to support this budget.
The opposition members say they will not participate in any parliament sitting related to the budget. The National Disaster Management Office says the public must take heed of warnings in times of peril to minimize destruction. Director Manasa Tangidakimbao says their teams are on standby. However, the public has a part to play in protecting life and property. Rishika Kumar with the details.
The flash floods on the weekend serve to remind the public to pay attention to alerts issued by DISMAC and the Met Office. DISMAC Director Manasa Tangidakimbao says people have been advised, but some continue to ignore them.
Still see people playing in these swift flowing rivers, jumping into these rivers, especially in those areas that we went to. Yeah. And we've heard that there's some casualties, I believe too, over the weekend. This is due to people not heeding to warnings.
DISMAC has been concentrating on awareness in the Western Division. However, from next year, it will be shifting its focus to the Central Division.
From next year, we will be targeting the Central Division because we see that the general populace of the Central Division, they're still really not taking, really to be serious about what's happening around them.
A trough of low pressure lies over the northern parts of Vanuatu. Although there is no warning of flooding, DISMAC is ready for anything. It's working with the Commissioner of Northern's office to meet the needs of the public if the need arises. Rashika Kumar, FBC News.
The Ministry of Agriculture is now getting legal advice in the aftermath of an outbreak of tuberculosis in cattle. Minister Iniesero Ratu says a special task force has submitted its initial report confirming more than 400 cattle are infected with TB and may have to be culled. Maggie Boyle reports.
The embattled dairy industry continues to be challenged. With flash flooding over the weekend in the renowned dairy belt of Tailevu, the Agriculture Minister Iniesero Ratu today confirmed the worst.
It's within the range of 400 cows or so at different levels. That's about 2 to 3% of what we have, which is minimal. But then that does not mean that milk production will not be affected, because to the farmers, that's income, and it will be affected.
Seru Ratu says stakeholders are now soliciting legal opinion about the next step.
We have received the report from the task force, but there is a component that will probably require legal advice from the Solicitor General's office, and we need to work on that, particularly in terms of the demarcation of responsibilities between the Ministry for Agriculture and the Biosecurity Authority, and also in terms of compensation if need be, if animals are going to be culled.
For now, it's critical to prevent the cattle TB from spreading further.
The advice has been isolate the affected animals, and of course for the dairy particularly, because twice a day most of the animals they come together feeding out of the same trough. We hope that the farmers would be able to separate the animals that are affected.
The Minister today confirming the seriousness of cattle TB with more than 400 animals affected. He admits there will be a dent in local milk production. Exactly how much of a dent that will be, only time will tell. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
A major landslide over the weekend washed away 2 major lines that supply water to the Tamavoord water treatment plant in Suva. It has resulted in thousands of city residents suffering a water supply cutoff. Ellen Stahls has the story.
Morning washed away 2 major.
The Water Authority of Fiji has been forced to address this problem, which was caused by the heavy rain over the weekend.
On Saturday morning, washed away 2 major supply lines to Tamavoord. So there's no water coming from Waimano to Tamavoord. That's a big impact, right? So what we're doing now is looking at the situation, how we can best put some temporary pipes to at least get some water from Waimano up to Tamavoord.
Savoro Creek, located at the bottom of Wailoku, is the only source that is currently supplying water.
Some parts of Suva and the major parts of Lami, Ndelenavesi, up to Visari, will be supply will be disrupted to these areas. What we have done is for the water supply to those areas, we've engaged water trucks, and water cutting will be programmed for the next couple of weeks.
The authority is reassuring the public that it is doing all it can to fix the problem and normalize the supply of water.
The good thing about this situation is all the major infrastructure stakeholders are housed under one ministry, the Fiji Electricity Authority, the Fiji Roads Authority and Water Authority of Fiji. So we are coordinating our efforts to ensure that we restore this damaged infrastructure in the quickest time possible. But like I said earlier on, it's not going to take a short time. It's going to take several weeks before we actually fix these problems.
Ravai says the authority is willing to go as far as to divert funds from other projects to help normalize supply. But in the meantime, customers will just have to wisely manage and use water sparingly over the next couple of weeks. Ellen Stahls, FBC News.
Celebrations for World Heritage Site listing to be held in Levuka on Friday. That's coming up.
How are you doing, Fiji? Yes, indeed, fast approaching, well, the major bulletin. But before we even talk about the major bulletin, what about my little news flash?
Oh my gosh, please don't let him get me started on that again.
Getting on the bus yesterday, and then he tells me, brother, move on to the other seat, because we can fit 2 people where you're sitting.
Hey, you can't blame the dude for being honest, okay?
There was nothing honest about what he said. Hi, I'm Pimil.
And I'm Fina.
Your daybreak duo on Gold FM. From Mondays to Fridays.
From 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Turn us on.
Ya vino pele pronto kwa chuma ni mwezi kwa kwenda bula FM namba ndiwe na siri na hona ni ndende manda ke central rental sapo ke ndio kusuru kwa terminichi meva na koloko. Ni sabula.
Oya wa tisoni dalai.
Gonga ya mwezi don.
Nama kikirau mena tolu kina bitu. Ena via kabi moliti kina porombuka.
Goria na lali ne kabi. Bula FM namba ndiwe na siri.
Welcome back. This is FBC News. The Vice Chief of the Australian Defence Force, Vice Admiral Ray Gregg, is in the country to renew ties with the Fiji military. This comes a month after Fiji agreed to resume full diplomatic ties with Canberra and accredit Australia's High Commissioner, who had been nominated 2 years earlier. Shireen Latta reports.
Vice Admiral Ray Gregg paid a courtesy call to the office of the military commander this morning. He was accorded a quota guard at the military's strategic headquarters in Suva, following a meeting with the officials from Fiji. RFMF spokesperson Lieutenant Sitiveni Giliho says this is the first meeting with the Australian Defence Force after the relationship between both the countries soured in 2006.
With the aggressive posture taken with their naval deployment and their forces deployment in the Kandap waters, in our territorial waters in 2006, and also statements by the Australian Defence Force chief at that time, where there was talk of a threat to our commander at that time of the possible pitting of Australian troops against the RFMF.
Giliho says Fiji is very cautious with the resumption of the defence ties, and the first step taken between Fiji and Australia has been quite successful.
We are here to start all over again. It's not just kissing each other on the cheek and pretend that nothing happened. We do appreciate that some things have happened in the last 8 years, and we'll have to. That is why I said that the RFMF is cautious about this re-engagement.
Vice Admiral Gregg is only one-day visit to Fiji. Today's meeting is another sign of thawing of relations between Fiji and Australia after almost 8 years. Shireen Latta, FBC News.
Flash flooding over the weekend caused minimal damage. Agriculture Minister Inia Seriratu says a second survey will be conducted tomorrow to confirm the initial findings. Maggie Boyle has more.
Breathing a sigh of relief, Agriculture Minister Inia Seriratu says damage from the flash flooding over the weekend could have been worse.
Glad to say that pasture conditions were not really disturbed, although there might be work needed in a few areas. Our concern was also on roading, particularly accessibility, because we need to get milk to the chilling station and of course to the processing plant in Nambua. There was some damage in Nambilo, the road to Nambilo, but that has been fixed yesterday. Landslides on the road to Navidula. They were working on it yesterday as well.
Seriratu says the cost of damage is more than likely to be announced by the end of this week.
Tomorrow, on Tuesday, we will send out the whole team again just to confirm the initial observations that we've made. That goes for both crops and livestock, and of course vegetables as well. And the Ministry for Infrastructure are working on the accessibility and utilities as well.
There was flash flooding experienced in Lami, Tailevu and Rakiraki. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
On Friday, President Ratu Epeli Nailatikau will launch celebrations to commemorate the listing of Levuka as a World Heritage Site. At its meeting in Cambodia last year, the UNESCO Council endorsed that Levuka be designated a World Heritage Site. Savada Tumbua has more.
Levuka was chosen because of its historical, cultural and physical significance to the country and the international scene. 2 days of celebrations have been planned in the old capital to commemorate this milestone achievement.
We want to complete and do Levuka to a standard where we are satisfied that it has reached that level in terms of its protection, emphasis, and also the people that are able to experience a difference of being understanding what is World Heritage to them.
Special funding has been allocated for maintenance of the St. John's College, Levuka Public School, Delana Methodist School and the Levuka Convent School, which are located in the heritage site. The Bulangi says the listing will boost tourism for the Levuka economy and the country as a whole.
Stories back from people from Levuka that there is an increase in the number of visitors coming to Levuka. But most of these visitors are locals, and we are very grateful to that. So that the local, we as people of Fiji, we actually appreciate what is there because it's our history.
Celebrations will kick off with a march from the town to Nassau Park, followed by cultural activities this Saturday. Sabaira Tambua, FBC News.
We turn to sports now. Here's Jamie with the latest.
Thank you, Jackie, and good evening in sports. After the break, Telecom Fijiana pleased with performance at the Dubai Sevens, and Fiji Rugby Union announced a $5 million budget for next year's Rugby World Cup. This and more coming up.
मेरा चांद मुझे आया है नजर, ऐ रात जरा थम थम के गुजर। छाया है नशा मेरे आंखों पर, ऐ रात जरा थम थम के गुजर। रह जाए ना प्यासा मेरा प्यार, मेरे बाहों में भर दे मेरा यार, ऐ रात जरा थम थम के गुजर, ऐ रात जरा थम थम के गुजर। हाय मिर्ची एफएम पर मैं हूं जितेन शांडिल। शामिल हो जाएगा हमारे साथ टुनाइट शो में Monday to Friday from 7 PM to 12 AM. मिर्ची एफएम it's fun but you're never gonna get it, तेरे हाथ कभी ना आनी।
Ni sa bulu binaga na turun na kayo maramani bulu binaga na doro bo kayo ni lewa ni sa bulu binaga ngone en go talem no no ni wawai katalau en mataka en nai
en vindela na mai nei tasiri
no bulu maleka bo ni milote nai sorta boa
en lomo ni bonua mai sanganga
ni bulu go Samuel na nota ni wawai katalau en radio Fijuan nandomo vitina vonga ni venu mai no kini diwa en bi mataka moni tiki na pagrubuka ni kai namaka.
Welcome back. The 16 teams taking part in the South Africa Sevens are now in the process of finalizing their squads for the tournament this weekend. Pundits say, apart from Fiji, Dubai Cup winner South Africa has shown great potential and will be tough to beat on home soil.
Firstly, their victory here is a really good thing for South Africa next week because the crowds will come pumping in to Port Elizabeth, no question about it. There were a lot of very clinical performances from them. I think particularly in the Cup semi-final against New Zealand, and some really good overall victories. You know, Neil Powell I think is a very shrewd coach. He's mixed his players up well and he used his replacement bench extremely well. Carl Brown, the captain, never started one game, and he's easing him back from injury, and I think he was effective in coming in the way that he did. The key thing with South Africa too, I think, is that they were competitive at the breakdown, even although they're not physically a very big side, but they've got extreme pace, and there's no substitute for pace.
Fiji is pooled with France, Canada and Scotland at the Port Elizabeth Sevens. The Telecom Fijiana Sevens side is happy with its performance at the Dubai Sevens over the weekend. The side turned heads in the Arabian Gulf and reached the plate final in only its first tournament as a core team. The experience will come in handy in preparation for the next tournament on the women's circuit in Brazil.
Before we left, the aim was to get in the top 6, and I think we did that. We got to start somewhere. Credit to the girls, the way we went out there and did our thing, and it's a new competition for us, and it was a big step up. And hopefully, come Brazil, we'll try and be realistic with our aim, and hopefully, get there.
The next leg of the Women's 7 Series will be held in Brazil on February 7th and 8th, 2015. The Fiji Rugby Union wants a $5 million budget for the 2015 World Cup. As the Vodafone flying Fijians gear up for the tournament, the FRU hopes they will be able to raise the amount with help from its sponsors and government. Indra Singh has more.
Rugby budget this year is around about $5 million for the World Cup. Yes. As you say, 2011 was $3 million. So if that is a benchmark this year, it'll be a little bit bigger than that. That's the budget for FRU. So we'll certainly be looking to our partners, our sponsors, the general public, and also government. Because I think, as you know, rugby brings us together. It brings a joy to our smiles, or brings smiles to our faces. So we certainly will be looking to 2 camps before June. So I think the discussion is around about April, that we gather our players who are up in Europe at a point. We go through fitness and start to ramp up the preparation for the World Cup.
The Australian country women's hockey side is fielding a young group of players in the Oceania Pacific Cup Championship in Suva. Coaches are looking to expose the newcomers to a different brand of hockey, and the regional tournament serves as the ideal way to test their mettle. Chalen Taudakadaka has more.
The Australian countryside is competing in the Oceania Pacific Cup Championship for the 4th year in a row. The majority of the players are under 21, and the idea is to expose them to tougher competition.
What they gain is sometimes we, as players, they tend to get sheltered by just playing in their own local areas, and that, but coming to tournaments like this exposes them to different styles of hockey, different ways of playing, and also puts pressures on them that they wouldn't receive when playing in Australia.
Oceania Hockey Federation believes the advantages goes both ways, with the Pacific Island teams to benefit as well from the stiff competition.
Australia and country and New Zealand presidents have both brought very competent teams, and what we hope is that the reason they play in this is to try and lift the level of the Pacific Island teams. They have their own competition, and we're definitely seeing a better standard of play this year.
The Oceania Pacific Cup Championship continues this week at the National Hockey Centre in Suva. Chalen Taudakadaka, FBC Sports.
Meanwhile, in today's games, the Fiji women's side defeated Samoa 9-0. The New Zealand Presidents defeated Australian country 1-0, and the Australian country men's side thumped Papua New Guinea 12-0. The Fiji Under-15 team is trying to learn as much as possible at the Australian Football League Lightning Carnival being played in Suva. The tournament is a build-up for the Oceania Cup, which starts at the same venue this week, and the Fiji side is looking forward to gain as much exposure as possible. Rohit Deo has more.
Australian Football League is a sport still trying to develop itself in the country, and these Fijian juniors are using the Lightning Carnival to learn more.
I thank the boys for the good effort they give out for today, and I know today's game it's a learning for us because most of us just play rugby, and it's our first time to play this sport, and we learn a lot from these development officers for bringing these sports to Fiji, and it's an honor for us to come and learn and to try and know some sports like this. Most of us young boys here in Fiji, we just watch it in the television, and we come and never try for today's game.
It is an interesting sport with a mixture of rugby, basketball, American football and soccer skills required. Officials are confident of Fiji doing well in the sport in the future.
It's starting slowly. It's really a minor sport in terms of ranking the sports in Fiji. Rugby is way up there, and AFL I think it's right at the bottom. So, but it's a very good sport, and the boys they are into it. We got all the players there, and it'll be very helpful and very good for this game. So, I think it's only time. It'll take time for us to get to that level.
Fiji won their opening 2 matches today, beating Vanuatu 16-0, then defeating the Tongan side 21-0. With the rate at which the sport is developing and looking at the standard of football displayed by these youngsters, it is for sure that the development is heading in the right direction. Rohit Deo, FBC Sports.
Fijian football wonder boy Roy Krishna continues with his goal-scoring spree for Wellington Phoenix in the A-League competition. The Lambasa man was on target for a third successive match as the Phoenix came from behind to beat the Newcastle Jets 3-1 over the weekend. Here are the goals.
Arriving, Carney with great vision to pick out Hall, and here is the opener. Wonderfully works from the Jets. Tries to pick out Burns, he's done so. Nathan Burns makes it 1-1. You can't stop a red-hot Nathan Burns at the moment. Try and tee up Bonavacia, puts it out in front of him. Are they falling apart again, Newcastle? Bonavacia! Oh, and it's coming in now, and they're in front. 2 goals in 2 minutes. Michael McGlinchey couldn't miss that one.
For the official.
Here's Krishna! Oh, boy, what a turnaround from Wellington. And that's the crowning glory.
Sensational stuff from Krishna. Finds space.
launches it towards goal. Boom! Picked that out of the back of the net.
And in its next game, the Phoenix take on the Central Coast Mariners on Saturday in New Zealand. That was your sports for tonight. Good evening.
Quest Suva Apartments, a leading provider of corporate accommodation in the heart of Suva, will soon undergo transformation to cater to growing customer demand. Another 22 apartments will be built, raising the hotel's capacity to 54 apartments. Owner's representative Sharon Fong has attributed their planned expansion to the growing demand for more corporate hotel accommodation. Fong says with growing engagement from multilateral agencies following the September elections, the timing of the project is right. Quest Suva, which is part of the Quest Global franchise, is owned by Suva Central Limited. It is a joint venture between the Mortibai Group and Bank South Pacific. Rain was experienced over the northern and eastern parts of the group today. Elsewhere, cloudy conditions and showers prevailed. Lombasa received 20 millimeters of rain overnight to 9 a.m. today. An active trough of low pressure remains slow-moving just to the north of Fiji. Associated cloud and rain affects the northern and eastern parts of the group. Meanwhile, a high-pressure system to the far south of Fiji directs a south-southeast wind flow over Fiji waters. The northern towns of Lombasa and Savusavu both recorded 28 degrees today. Ba had the highest temperature at 33. The northern towns of Lombasa and Savusavu also both recorded 28 degrees. Ba at 33. Forecast to midnight tomorrow, strong southeast winds with an average speed of 45 kilometers an hour over the Asawa group. Elsewhere, moderate to fresh southeast winds. Occasional rain, heavy at times, and squally thunderstorms over eastern half of Vanua Levu, Taviuni, and nearby smaller islands in northern Lao group. Rain expected to gradually ease, some showers elsewhere. Further outlook, Wednesday's outlook, some showers over most places. And recapping our main stories, opposition member walks out of parliament during budget debate. A second round of assessments will be carried out in flood-hit areas tomorrow, and the Agriculture Ministry is seeking legal advice about compensation following an outbreak of TB in cattle. To our poll segment, and here are the results from last week's question. We asked, should the contract for Fiji Sevens players be more than $15,000 per annum? 63% of people said yes. This week we're asking, was Fiji overconfident in its loss against Australia in the Dubai Sevens? Visit our FBC website to take part. Remember, you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email citizenseyes@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via Facebook page FBC News. And if you're on Twitter, follow and tweet us your news tips at FBC News or simply hashtag FBC News. That's our bulletin for today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Nimo Demanda.
देश की धड़कन रेडियो फीजी 2 का ये प्रसारण आप प्ले कार्यक्रम में आपका स्वागत है कर रहे हैं। याद दिलाते हैं अभी से लेकर रात 12 तक ये सिलसिला खबर और आपका चलता रहेगा। दृष्टिकोण में आपका हम स्वागत कर रहे हैं। दृष्टिकोण के तुरंत बाद आगे बढ़ते हैं कार्यक्रम में। इधर कहते हैं कि गहरी थी रात लेकिन हम सोए नहीं, गहरी थी रात लेकिन हम सोए नहीं, दर्द बहुत था दिल में पर हम रोए नहीं, कोई नहीं हमारा जो पूछे हमसे, जाग रहे हो किसके लिए या किसी के लिए सोए नहीं। याद रहा दें, गीत संगीत का तकाजा आपके लिए रात 12 तक आपको हम सोने नहीं देंगे। महकती रातें हर सोमवार से लेकर शुक्रवार तक रात 7 से लेकर 12 के बीच रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन पर रविंद्र सिंह के साथ।